Okay, ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Today, we're tackling the Vatican.
Ooh, interesting.
But not just the Vatican is this, like, holy city, right?
Right.
We're going deep into the dark side.
I like it.
The stuff they don't put in the guidebooks,
Yeah.
the secrets, the scandals.
The hidden history.
Exactly. And we've got a ton of sources to work with here.
Like what kind of stuff?
We've got historical accounts, investigative journalism, even some first-hand accounts.
Ooh, firsthand accounts from people who've been inside.
Yep, people who've seen things.
This is going to be good.
So let's start with the basics. What is it about the Vatican that makes it so ripe for this kind of deep dive?
Well, for me, it's the power.
It's a power, okay.
It's this tiny little nation state,
Right.
but it wields this incredible influence.
It's like a paradox, right?
Totally.
Small, but mighty.
Exactly.
And that power has been around for centuries.
Centuries.
And with that power comes secrets.
And a whole lot of wealth.
Oh, yeah.
You can't talk about the Vatican without talking about the money.
I mean, have you seen St. Peter's Basilica?
It's opulent.
It's just mind-blowing. The art, the architecture.
A very visual reminder of the Vatican's power, right?
Totally. It's like they're saying, look at what we can do, look at what we have.
And a lot of that wealth, well, has a pretty dark history.
Okay, let's talk about that. We've got the Vatican Bank.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole.
This super secretive financial institution.
Accusations of money laundering, shady dealings.
Connections to dictators, even.
Some sources even suggest
So on.
that they might have funded the Nazis.
Whoa, hold on. Nazis.
Yeah. There are accounts of Hitler himself making donations to the church.
That's disturbing.
It is. And it makes you wonder, what else are they hiding?
Right. If you're willing to get involved with something like that, what else are they capable of?
Exactly.
It's like this whole idea of the Vatican being this untouchable, holy city starts to crumble a bit.
Yeah, you start to see the cracks.
And when you start digging into the history, you find some pretty wild stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, for example, Pope Formosus.
Okay, now that's a story.
They put him on trial after he died.
The Cadaver Synod.
Can you imagine?
Rival papal faction. They dig up his body, dress him up
Wait, they dressed him up?
in full papal robes, yeah.
Wow.
And then they put him on trial, accuse him of all these crimes.
A dead guy.
Yeah, it's wild. Of course, they find him guilty.
What happens then?
They strip him of his robes, chop off his fingers, toss the body in the Tiber River.
No way.
It's a true story.
That's insane.
It shows you the lengths they would go to for power.
Right, even desecrating a dead pope.
No one was off limits.
It's crazy.
And it makes you wonder about the other stories that might be true but haven't come to light yet.
Exactly. Like, are there other bodies buried somewhere? Other cover-ups?
It's possible. And speaking of things being hidden, there's this other story that I find fascinating, even though historians say it's not true.
What's that?
The legend of Pope Joan.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. The female pope.
Supposedly disguised herself as a man, rose through the ranks, became the Pope.
Imagine the audacity.
It's a wild story. Probably just a legend, but it's a good one.
It's definitely intriguing. I mean, even if it's not true, it makes you think, right?
Absolutely. It shows how even the seemingly impenetrable Vatican has vulnerabilities.
Right, like cracks in the facade.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder what other secrets might be lurking beneath the surface.
Totally. And speaking of secrets, we've got to talk about the Emanuela Orlandi case.
Oh, that's a heartbreaking one.
A 15-year-old girl vanishes from Vatican City in 1983.
Gone without a trace.
And the Vatican's response?
Well, let's just say it wasn't exactly helpful.
It's like they were more concerned with protecting their image than finding the truth.
That's what it looks like.
We've got conflicting accounts from officials, possible mafia connections, and then there's this bombshell testimony from a mob boss's mistress.
Sabrina Minardi.
She claims she was involved in Emanuela's disappearance,
And that Emanuela was taken within the Vatican itself?
which suggests some level of complicity,
So
right?
it's hard to deny that.
And they even opened up tombs in 2019 based on a tip.
Looking for her remains.
But they found nothing.
It's like the Vatican is this black hole where secrets go to die.
And the case was just reopened this year, so maybe.
Maybe we'll finally get some answers.
Oh, let's hope so. But all of this, the papal scandals, the missing person, the financial stuff,
It paints a pretty dark picture.
it does. It makes you question the whole narrative in the Vatican as this beacon of holiness and light.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that power, even when it's dressed up in religious robes, can be a very dangerous thing.
So we've got power, secrets, and scandals. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to talk about the Vatican's ultimate secret keeper, the Vatican's secret archives.
Ooh, yes. The archives. This is where things get really interesting.
Right, they're legendary. Miles and miles of shelves filled with documents going back centuries.
And access is incredibly restricted, right?
Oh, yeah. Only a handful of scholars are allowed in, and even they can only see a tiny fraction of what's there.
Which, of course, has led to all sorts of speculation about what they're hiding.
Oh, the rumors are wild. Lost Gospels, correspondence between Roman emperors and early Christians.
What else? Give me the good stuff.
Some even believe they have evidence of alien contact.
No way. Aliens.
And blueprints for time-traveling devices.
Hold on. Time travel. Seriously.
It's all speculation, of course, but it's fun to think about.
It is. And it speaks to this idea that the Vatican might be holding on to knowledge that could change the world as we know it.
And they're not sharing it.
Which begs the question, why? What are they so afraid of?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And it's one we're going to keep asking as we dive deeper into this rabbit hole.
Stay tuned. This is just the beginning. It's amazing when you think about it. The Vatican has been around for so long, it's like a witness to history.
Right. All those events, empires rising and falling, wars, plagues.
It's seen it all.
It makes our current problems seem kind of small, doesn't it?
It does put things in perspective. But even in the Vatican's long history, there are some pretty dark chapters.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking about power struggles and scandals, but things could get really brutal back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. We mentioned Pope Formosus earlier.
The one they put on trial after he was dead.
Right. And that's just one example. There were periods where rival factions within the church were literally fighting for control.
Like armies and stuff.
Not quite armies, but definitely violence, assassinations, all sorts of intrigue.
It's crazy to think about all this happening in what's supposed to be this holy city.
It is. And it makes you question the motivations of some of these figures. Were they driven by faith or by ambition?
Or maybe a bit of both.
Probably. And that brings us back to the legend of Pope Joan.
Oh, yeah, the female pope.
Right. Now, historians pretty much agree that this story is a myth.
But it's a persistent one.
It is, and I think it speaks to this underlying desire for change within the church, a challenge to the established order.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder if someone could potentially pull off something like that. What other secrets are they hiding?
Exactly. And speaking of secrets, we've got to talk about the Vatican's finances.
Oh, yeah, the money trail.
Right. We already mentioned the Vatican Bank, but it goes way beyond that. The Vatican has investments all over the world.
Really? Like what kind of investments?
Real estate, stocks, even pharmaceutical companies. One source even mentioned they have a stake in a major Italian pasta maker.
Pasta. Seriously?
Yep. It's a big business.
Wow. I had no idea. So how much money are we talking about here?
It's hard to say for sure. The Vatican's finances are notoriously opaque, but some estimates put their wealth in the tens of billions of dollars.
Tens of billions. That's more than some countries.
It is. And all that wealth has attracted a lot of attention.
Especially from conspiracy theorists.
Oh, yeah, the Vatican is like a magnet for conspiracy theories.
It's like they see the Vatican as this all-powerful, all-knowing entity.
Right. A lot of these theories revolve around this idea of a new world order.
Okay, break that down for me. What is the New World Order?
Well, it's this idea that a powerful group is working behind the scenes to control the world.
And they think the Vatican is part of this group.
Yep. Some even believe the Vatican is the mastermind behind it all.
I mean, I guess it makes sense in a way. The Vatican has been around for centuries. It has global influence.
And a lot of wealth and power.
Yeah.
It's easy to see why people would point the finger at them.
Right. It's like the ultimate villain in a conspiracy thriller.
Exactly. And then you've got theories about the Vatican covering up alien contact.
Aliens again.
Really? Or suppressing ancient knowledge that could challenge traditional beliefs.
It's like people want to believe that the Vatican has this secret vault of forbidden knowledge.
And that they're keeping it from the rest of us.
Which, of course, brings us back to the Vatican secret archives.
Ah, yes, the archives. They're like the holy grail for conspiracy theorists.
I mean, come on, miles of shelves filled with centuries-old documents. What's not to be intrigued by?
Right. And they're so secretive about what's in there. It just fuels the imagination.
We already talked about the chronovisor, the alleged time travel device.
Right.
But there are other rumors, too. Documents about Jesus' bloodline.
The location of the Holy Grail.
Evidence of Atlantis.
People will believe anything.
I know, but it's fun to speculate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if some of these rumors were true?
It would be incredible. But it's important to remember that most of what's in those archives is probably just mundane historical records.
Yeah, probably. But still, A little mystery never hurt anyone.
True.
Okay, so we've got the Vatican, this powerful, wealthy institution, shrouded in secrecy and conspiracy theories.
And with a history full of dark chapters.
Right. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to talk about one of the most mysterious groups in history. The Knights Templar?
Ooh, the Templars. Warrior monks, secret societies, lost treasures.
They're the stuff of legends.
So how do they tie into the Vatican?
Well, the Templars were incredibly powerful in their time. They amassed a lot of wealth and influence during the Crusades.
And it made them a target, right?
Exactly. In the early 14th century, they were accused of heresy, idolatry, all sorts of things.
And ultimately, they were wiped out.
By King Philip V of France, with the backing of Pope Clement V.
So the Vatican was involved in their downfall.
They were, and that's led to a lot of speculation about what really happened.
Some people believe Philip was just jealous of their wealth and wanted to seize their assets.
Right. Others believe the Templars had uncovered something dangerous, something that threatened the power of the church.
Like what?
Well, there are rumors that they discovered evidence that challenged the church's teachings.
Or that they possessed powerful artifacts like the Holy Grail.
Exactly.
It's like a real-life Da Vinci Code.
It is, and the fact that the Vatican was involved in their demise just adds to the mystery.
It's like they were trying to cover something up.
Maybe, but we may never know for sure. The Templars took their secrets to the grave.
Speaking of secrets, we have to circle back to the Emanuele Orlandi case.
That case is truly baffling.
It's been over 40 years, and we still don't know what happened to her.
And the Vatican's handling of the investigation has been questionable, to say the least.
Right. From the beginning, they seemed more interested in protecting their image than in finding the truth.
And that's led to all sorts of speculation about what they might be hiding.
We've got theories about mafia involvement, a Vatican cover-up, even a connection to the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II.
It's a tangled web.
And the fact that they opened up tombs in 2019 looking for her remains but found nothing.
It just adds to the mystery.
And now, the case has been reopened.
Which is a good sign, I think. Maybe they're finally ready to be more transparent.
Let's hope so. Because Emanuele's family deserves answers.
They do. And this case is a reminder that even in a place like the Vatican, where power and faith are so closely intertwined, the truth can be a very elusive thing.
It's a reminder that no one is above the law, no matter how powerful or influential they may be.
Exactly. And that justice, even if it's delayed, is still worth fighting for.
Okay, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Where we'll delve even deeper into some of the mysteries surrounding the papacy.
I want to ask you a question. What aspect of the Vatican's darker side has struck you the most so far?
You know, with all this talk of conspiracies and cover-ups, it's easy to forget that the Vatican is ultimately run by people.
Right, they're not infallible.
Exactly. They make mistakes. They have their own agendas.
And sometimes those agendas can have some pretty devastating consequences.
Like in the case of Emanuele Orlandi.
It's heartbreaking to think about what her family has gone through all these years without any answers.
And it really makes you question the Vatican's priorities. Were they more concerned with protecting their own reputation than with finding out the truth?
It's hard to say for sure, but their actions definitely raise some red flags.
The delays, the conflicting statements, the lack of transparency, it all feeds into this perception that they're hiding something.
And that perception has had a real impact on their credibility.
Absolutely. It's damaged their moral authority in the eyes of many.
And even though the case has been reopened, it's hard to imagine them coming clean after all this time.
It would be a huge step for them to admit any wrongdoing.
But if they want to regain the trust of the people, they need to be more transparent.
They do. The Orlandi case is a reminder that the Vatican, like any institution, is capable of great good, but also great harm.
Okay, let's move on to another papal mystery. The story of Pope John Paul I.
The smiling pope, as he was known.
His papacy was incredibly short, just 33 days.
But he made a big impact in that short time.
He was seen as a reformer, someone who wanted to modernize the church.
He talked about simplifying the Vatican, selling off some of their assets to help the poor.
He sounds like a real threat to the status quo.
He was. And then he suddenly dies. Officially a heart attack.
But of course, there were rumors of foul play.
People suspected he was poisoned, maybe, by those who opposed his reforms.
It's like a scene out of House of Cards.
Right, all the intrigue, the whispers of conspiracy.
And the Vatican's response didn't exactly help.
They were evasive, contradictory, which only fueled the speculation.
So what do you think really happened?
It's impossible to say for sure. There's no concrete evidence to support any of the theories.
But the fact that those theories persist all these years later,
It tells you something about the power of mystery and the public's distrust of the Vatican.
okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. From papal scandals to missing persons to secret archives. What's your main takeaway from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the Vatican is an institution at a crossroads. They can continue down this path of secrecy and cover-ups, or they can choose to be more transparent and accountable.
It's a choice that will have a big impact on their future.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's up to them to decide what kind of legacy they want to leave behind.
That's a good point. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the dark side of the Vatican.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. And as always, we encourage our listeners to do their own research.
Read the sources we've provided, explore the topics that interest you.
And come to your own conclusions. The Vatican is a complex and often contradictory institution.
And there's always more to uncover.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic to explore. Until then, stay curious.